Hi there, welcome to Bourbon Turntable. We are the show that blends the love of music with the love of whiskey. With me tonight, as always, is my very good friend, Mr. Drew Crawley. Hey Drew, how are you?
Doing good, my friend. How about yourself?
Oh, doing well. We're recording this the Sunday after Thanksgiving.
hmm
So tell me something that you're thankful for.
I'm thankful for good whiskey and good music, as always. But in particular, I am thankful for smoked ham this year. That
Yeah,
was
well,
a highlight of my weekend. So I've done it, broiled. I've gotten the store-bought honey baked ham, but done on the smoker right with pineapple and brown sugar and all that kind of stuff on it. Mm, smoked ham.
that 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 tracks. Yeah, I can get behind that.
Absolutely. How about you?
Yeah, I echo good whiskey, good music. I think that we'll be talking about at least some of that tonight. And you know, just just family. Just got to spend
hmm
some time with family this week, and you just yeah. Sometimes it gets a little annoying when there's too many people in one room and eight conversations going on. None of it makes sense. But just being around and hanging out and playing games. Yeah, it's tough to beat.
Absolutely. And
Tough
I
to beat.
understand not only did you get to see some friends of the show this week, but you also had a new family member added. Is that correct?
Well, we are almost added.
Okay,
Okay,
anticipating.
added and waiting. Yes, my younger
Yes.
son got engaged last weekend, so that's fantastic. So we're excited about that. And
Congratulations.
wedding date TBD. We
Sure.
only told him there's one date in May you can't have because it's already
Much
spoken
appreciated.
for.
Thank you.
Um, so, but other than that, it's wide open. So
Awesome.
we'll see. And again, yeah, just got to talk with the two of them some on, I guess Wednesday night or Thursday night, I guess, and just you know feeling them out on stuff. And yeah, they're
hmm
solid. They're solid.
Good. I'm
Um,
glad to hear it. I'm
yeah,
excited for you guys.
thank you, thank you. But you mentioned we got to see Cindy and I drove down to Nashville Tuesday night on our way
hmm
to into Tennessee, and we got to see Parker Barrow. So Megan Kane, Dylan Turner, and they were yeah. Megan has a very distinctive voice,
hmm
and quite frankly, the way she sings, to me anyway, sounds difficult. It sounds
hmm
high level of difficulty in her style and her range. So I was curious to see how it would translate to live. And brother, she nailed it. And
Awesome.
it's not like they've been resting up for a while. I mean, they've been out on the road and they've been touring and singing a lot and playing a lot. And she sounded fresh as it gets. And uh, just cannot say enough good things uh, about them, the show they put on, and just how sweet they are.
Yeah.
We typically, when I go to a show, I typically arrive as early as possible
hmm
because I want to get the seat that I want and scout out their whiskey selection out of the bar.
Sure.
And so we got there right at the end of their sound check, and when they got done, they both came over, spoke to us, and we talked a little bit. And then after the show, hung out a little while, talked with them, got to meet the band, and I don't know, their band is fantastic. One of the guitarists, I think is it Blake Allred. He is with a band was with a band called Joyous Wolf. So if you're
Okay.
looking to dig into a different band, Joyous Wolf. Dylan mentioned them to me while we were there. Listened to them some this week. Killer. But they didn't set it up for him to come play with them that night. This was a Tuesday night until Monday night. So he flew in from LA Tuesday morning, played with them Tuesday night and didn't miss a beat.
Awesome.
He nailed it playing rhythm guitar, and so they were great. After the
Love to
show,
hear it.
they bought us shots, and so we did shots with him. So that was fun. And
Outstanding. Good.
just I'd adopt them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
They seem like fantastic people, and it's good to know that experience doesn't just play out on a show like ours.
Yeah.
It plays out in real life. So
Yeah.
that's a treat.
Yeah. So if you haven't heard the show we did with them, go back and you should go back and find it. It's very much worth listening to, but more so, listen to their music. Parker Barrow, I believe we are Parker Barrow on Instagram. They're on all streaming services, so check them out. But anyway, kind of diving into music stuff here already. And tonight we've been wanting to do a show talking about Chris Stapleton for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And there he is. Out there at the CMA Awards, probably. No, there's a CMT Awards. Is there a difference? CMT, CMA? I guess there is.
Country Music Academy and something.
Country Music Television. Okay, anyway.
Television.
Whatever it is, you can tell this is him walking in because he doesn't have armful of awards that he's having to hold in the photo. So, but
yes,
we're going to talk about Chris Stapleton. And we're going to talk about Tennessee whiskey because I've heard there's actually on Instagram there's some shop that makes these stupid glasses and stuff, and then they have different silly sayings on them, and one of them says as smooth as titties and whiskey. And yeah, I've been told I cannot have that glass. But anyway, Tennessee whiskey,
no comment.
So we're going to talk with Chris Stapleton. No, we're not. We're going to talk about Chris Stapleton, and we're going to talk about some Tennessee whiskey and what makes it Tennessee whiskey, and is that a good thing or a bad thing, or just a thing. But we also want to tell you about the Bar Cart Co-op. Bar Cart Co-op is a collection of friends who produce content for you, the whiskey public. Distillers Talk with Alan Bishop and Christy Atkinson. They drop shows pretty much every Friday. They've been talking with distillers from across the country and around the world about anything and everything that makes what's in that bottle. Alan also has a show called One Piece at a Time Distilling Institute, where you can send him questions about anything and everything distilling related, and he will post responses to that. He also has, if you have ghosts, you have everything, because apparently Alan has lots of time on his hands. But if you have ghosts, you have everything. It touches into some aspects of distillation, namely if it's a haunted distillery. But he will talk about ghosts. He'll talk about things of the paranormal. And it's a very interesting show. Always a lot of fun. My Whiskey Den with Pat and Mike and Mitch airs every Monday night, 9 o'clock Eastern, 8 o'clock Central. My Whiskey Den is where craft whiskey is king. They have wonderful guests. They have great tastings, and you can just hang out in the chat and be a smart aleck. That's my job there. And then finally, last but certainly not least, is the newest member of the Bar Cart Co-op. Not my Whiskey Den, Whiskey in My Wedding Ring with David Levine. David is a writer and a podcaster. He does a great job with reviews and brings out some really, really good information. So be sure to check that out. And lastly, one more thing.
All right. Don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, hit the bell notification to find out when new episodes come out, which is every Wednesdays on all of your streaming services everywhere. Apple, Spotify, whatever other ones there are, and the YouTube where you can watch the live recording itself.
I always enjoy those whatever other ones they are. Those are my favorite. Thanks, Mike. You're a good sport for putting up with this for as long as you have and not punching me in the head over this. But let's talk some Tennessee whiskey. What makes it Tennessee whiskey, Drew?
Well, you got this thing, the Lincoln County process. So basically, Tennessee whiskey meets all the other subsets of qualifications that it means to be a bourbon whiskey, as far as the United States Whiskey Code. So made from at least 51% corn, aged in a virgin oak barrel. Not in the barrel at more than a certain proof, in the bottle a certain proof, and in the glass of a certain proof. All those other things, but it goes through this extra step called the Lincoln County process, and that's where they filter it through maple charcoal. And every distillery in Tennessee has different processes as far as what that means in terms of timeline, in terms of what kind of maple they use. And we will probably spare the listeners on the arguments between is Tennessee whiskey bourbon and is bourbon Tennessee whiskey, because
Oh, come
that's
on.
tired at this point. Oh, no. So basically, it is a bourbon whiskey that goes through one extra step. Now, whether you believe that that takes something away from the whiskey or whether you believe that adds something to the whiskey, that is where the contention lies. But there's this unique category called Tennessee whiskey. It is not a federal classification. It is a state classification done by the state of Tennessee. And it does result in some pretty unique flavor profiles. So did I do a sufficient job of summarizing that without pissing everybody off?
No, I think that's fine. And I when did we start being real concerned about pissing people off?
Just yesterday.
Oh,
Yeah. No,
oh man, I missed the memo. I must have. Must be behind my email.
Bourbon is its own category. Tennessee whiskey is not bourbon in terms of the flavor profile, but by all means, federally and legally, it should be considered a bourbon, unless you're going to get nitpicky about what charcoal filtration actually does, which is add flavor and color to a bourbon whiskey. So
to me, it could qualify as being a bourbon technically. Tennessee does not want it to be classified as such. They like the designation of Tennessee whiskey because it sets it apart, makes it different. I do kind of fall into the technical side of it and say if you're adding flavor and you're adding color, other than from the barrel after distillation, then I think that you're doing things to disqualify it from being a bourbon.
Yep.
But people will argue the other way, and I really don't care enough to argue about it.
Exactly. Well, and then you bring in this specialty whiskeys category.
Yep.
The folks like Angel's Envy and Rabbit Hole and these finished companies, and it's hard to argue that they're not adding color and flavor, and they have their own special designation. So why shouldn't Tennessee whiskey?
Yep. All right. So we've got some Tennessee whiskey here, and so tell us what you're drinking and tell us all about your thoughts on it.
Yep. So I'm drinking the Jack Daniel's Bottled and Bond.
Yep.
Jack Daniel's Bonded, I think, is how they describe it. I had plans to get another bottle today, but the store near my house was out of their single barrel pick of what I was aiming for. So went with the Jack Bonded. This is a relatively new product. I think it came out in 21 or 22.
Yeah.
It hasn't been around all that long. You get kind of your typical Jack Daniel's notes. You're going to get a little bit of that Wonka candy and banana that's typical of all Brown-Forman products on the nose. Not a lot else going on there. And then on the palate, you still kind of get that. You remember Runts?
Yep.
That pack of candy that had all the fruit flavors. You get the banana Runts thing going on. Get a little bit of a confectionery note. A lot of brown sugar. Just a touch more oak tannin than you can expect out of a normal Jack Daniel's product. I think that has to do with the extra proof. Typically Jack Daniel's comes out at what, 86? Or is it 90?
It's 90, I thought.
Is it 90? Okay. I think you're right. I think it's 90, but I think, taking away some water allows the oak influence to come through a little bit more in this bonded expression. And then, of course, for Bottled and Bond, you've got the 100 proof requirement, minimum of 4 years, one distillery, one distilling season, and those kind of things. So I would expect these releases to be variable, release by release, but it's a decent thing out of Jack Daniel's. I know we've both spoken for our love of the single barrel proof, both the bourbon or the Tennessee whiskey and the rye. Excuse me. But this is a good shelf reacher. I think I paid just shy of $50 for this a couple weeks ago, so not too shabby.
Yeah, I like it. I think it's good stuff. I don't, it's not something that I would get too excited about, but I think it's good.
Yeah.
I think it's good. I appreciate him going to something a little different. As far as making it bonded, that's a nice
Mm-hmm.
designation to add to the Jack Daniels lineup. Um, I think the rye, barrel proof rye, is probably the best thing they do.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that goes through the Lincoln County process, so that may be why I like it. But they also have a line of what they call Tennessee tasters that are only available in the state of Tennessee, that are different, just different finishes, different proofs. They've got a Jack Daniels High Angel Share, which that was really good. So
I don't know that I've tried that one.
I may have some sitting
cool.
around here, so we can probably make that happen.
Okay.
And I picked up one not too long ago that was finished in an añejo barrel.
Interesting.
Jack Daniels in an añejo barrel, and it needed more time in the añejo barrel.
Yeah.
So it didn't taste
Fair
so
assessment.
much like Jack Daniels.
What are you sipping on?
Well, hang on a second before we leave Jack Daniels.
All right.
Now, the thing that I will say is, you don't need to be too snooty of a whiskey drinker to not go to a bar or a concert and order Jack and Coke.
That's right.
Actually did that last night. We went to see Blue Funk last night and had a Jack and Coke, and it's good. Yeah, the Coke kind of mellows out the Jackness of the Jack Daniels, and they just play really well together. And I don't know if it's just something, I don't notice it as much. I don't do a lot of mixing with I don't do a lot of mixers anyway, but when I do, if I put a little Coke with something, nothing is as kind of fits as well as the Jack Daniels does.
Absolutely. Well, there's a reason those things kind of go hat in hand. It's a cultural icon, so to speak.
Yeah. So
most definitely.
Yeah. So next time you're out, try yourself a Jack and Coke, and it's better. I don't know. It's better out than it is if you just do it at the house too. So I don't know, just something about that. But all right. So what I'm trying is George Dickel Bottled in Bond. They started doing Bottled in Bond, I think 3 or 4 years ago, and I have never been a fan of George Dickel. I just don't like it. And there is the Flintstone vitamins note is not just something that's contrived. It's there.
Absolutely.
And so I've got this here tonight. I nose it. It's there. It's very high minerality in the nose. And it's just all over the palate. It is, you got Dino and Barney and Fred in there. Just now there are other notes that are, there's some orange in it, there's some vanilla in it, and some caramel in it. But to me, it's just overwhelmed by that Flintstones vitamins note. And I don't know how people get around that.
Yeah, I would agree. Everything I've tried from them, and I've gone back to it multiple times trying to see if they have a release that's better than another, and that tends to be kind of the overwhelming thing.
Yeah.
In your research and experience and, interviews and such, have you ever heard an employee of Dickel give an explanation for why that is such a distinctive George Dickel note? Because there's plenty of Tennessee whiskey distilleries that don't share that.
Yeah.
Is it a yeast strain thing, a water source thing?
I don't know why it's there. Just know that it is. I think Nicole Austin who's now the master distiller at Dickel. She understands it and kind of has been on interviews where she's just been very upfront about addressing it. And I think that she wants to kind of move away from that profile, but I think you have to be very careful in moving away from a profile of a product that has been very successful.
Absolutely.
And if you say, "Oh, I think George Dickel's great," that's your call and that's your dollar that you're going to spend on it. And but I don't like it. And my older son had several years ago he wanted to get me something for a birthday, and he went in a local store and asked for some suggestions. And at that point, this was fairly new, so he bought this for me. And I was gracious and thanked him for it. Then about a year later, he bought me a 15-year Dickel single barrel. And I was gracious and I thanked him for it. Then I think it was that March we did our bourbon group does a March Madness Bottled and Bond bracket challenge where I'll have 8 different Bottled and Bond products and we'll pair them off just like in your NCAA tournament bracket. And 1 plays 2 and 3 plays 4 and 5 plays 6, 7 plays 8. And then you taste the 2 against each other and you advance, and then the 2 against each other, and then you got the finals. So I included this in there. And my son, his first, as we're going through the process, everybody will talk about, well, what did you like about this one versus that one? And then so we get to this, and first thing out of his mouth, he pipes up and says, "This tastes like Flintstones vitamins." Yeah. Okay. So we go on, and then at the end, we reveal what everything was, and tell him when I say that, okay, this one was George Dickel Bottled and Bond. The first words out of his mouth were, "Dad, I am so sorry." But I put off trying the 15-year for a while, and then tried it thinking, okay, maybe it's different, but it's not. The extra age on it doesn't really help with that. There have been some blends that I've tried that use Dickel. So I think Barrel uses some Dickel in some of the stuff they do, and you can blend that out if you know what you're doing, I guess. But yeah, not a big fan of the George Dickel.
Gotcha. Yeah. Well, a couple of other thoughts on this one, and I know we want to get to music at some point, but for the folks that may not be familiar with the category of Tennessee whiskey beyond the Jack Daniels and the George Dickel, you've spent quite a lot of time in Tennessee. What are a couple of Tennessee whiskeys that you have enjoyed and would recommend for people that are fans of a typical bourbon profile, or just wanting something different?
Yeah. Well, whiskeys from Tennessee, Chattanooga whiskey, I think, does a great job. I know there are some people that don't like it. They've had bad experiences with it. But I think their stuff is really good. The cast strength bourbon comes in at 111 proof. I think it's tough to beat. It's, I don't know, $42 or something. Then they've been doing a Bottled and Bond series for about 3 or 4 years, where they'll have a release in the spring, a release in the fall. All of their mash bills are very high in malt content, so that makes them a little different. So I like Chattanooga whiskey really well. Leaper's Fork does a great job, and
that was one I would mention too.
Yeah, they actually have a bottle and bond Tennessee whiskey as well as a bottle and bond bourbon, so you can taste them side by side, and I can tell you that their Tennessee whiskey doesn't have that, I don't know, that bite that you get out of Jack Daniels or you get out of Dickel from that Lincoln County process. So those are probably the two that come to mind most for me.
Yeah, absolutely. I would agree with both of those. I have a little bit more experience with Chattanooga than I do Leaper's Fork, but everything I've tried out of Leaper's Fork I've enjoyed. I'm not as familiar with what does and does not go through the Lincoln County process, but I would say those are some good alternatives or gateways or whatever you want to call them if you want to get beyond the Dickel and the Daniels kind of side of things. So definitely worth trying those as well before you completely write off whiskey made in Tennessee.
Yeah, no, I think there is some good whiskey down there, and again, I think Jack Daniels does some interesting stuff, but it's just not their base product has a place, and that's fine. There are workarounds there. One other thing I'll say about Dickel is they did a collaboration with Todd Leopold, where Dickel, Nicole Austin had actually distilled rye at Dickel, because any of the Dickel rye that you see on the shelf is MGP. But she distilled rye there at Cascade Hollow and blended it with Todd's 3-chamber rye, and that was very good. And there was no, I don't think there's any Lincoln County process that went through with that rye. And I would be very interested. To my knowledge, they've not released it commercially yet, but I'd be very interested in trying the Dickel rye that Nicole distilled. I think that would be very good.
Good deal. Yep. Well, in a way of maybe transitioning or segueing into the music side of things, are you familiar with the George Jones song, "The King Is Gone and So Are You"? You ever heard that one?
I have heard that one. It's been a while, but
it's a joke song, nothing crazy.
Yeah.
But there's a line about taking a Jim Beam decanter that looked like Elvis and pouring it into a Flintstones vitamin jar. And that's how he gets drunk to get over his lady. But that is what this tastes like. It's Jim Beam White Label poured into a Flintstones jelly bean jar. So for your listening pleasure and or suggestion for what you should look up on Spotify this week, check it out. Let us know what you think. But it's also just a great opportunity to hear the great George Jones sing.
Yeah.
So
no, that's always good. That's always good. All right. Speaking of hearing somebody sing, let's talk about some Chris Stapleton.
All right.
Obviously a fan, right?
Most definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, well, I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves here, but I've had the opportunity to hear Chris Stapleton play live. I think twice now, in terms of full sets, and then a couple times as a special guest. And there's something so special about him and what he does that is beyond any other great of our generation. So, you know, I've had the fortune to see, excuse me, Elton John play, see Stevie Nicks play, and see Chris Stapleton play, and those are special. They're just head and shoulders above what anyone else is doing. And so I would just say he is in a category all his own in terms of modern music, but it puts him on the level of some of the greats of the last few generations as well.
Yeah.
Love the guy.
When we were traveling, we were listening to some Chris Stapleton as we were going about. And I told Cindy, I said, I don't know that there's a male vocal that I like more than Chris Stapleton. It's rich, it's deep, it's emotive. He can go high, he can go low. and to my knowledge, is not classically trained as a singer or a musician, but he sure has it going on.
Special. So
Born here in Kentucky.
Yes, we'll claim him.
Yes, born in Lexington. Moved to Nashville in 2001. Was going to be an engineer, studying at Vanderbilt, and then decided, I don't want to do this. I want to do music. And became lead singer for a band called the Steel Drivers. It's pretty solid outfit.
Good. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, they're still touring. They have a different lead singer now, but their song Where Rainbows Never Die, that was a feature at my grandfather's funeral. And then they've got one called Sticks That Made Thunder. That's a just brilliantly written thing. It's a personification of a tree on a Civil War battlefield.
Yeah.
And it's that one's fantastic. They've got great harmonies, killer banjo player, killer mandolin player, real good fiddle player that's there sometimes. Not always do they have fiddle, but that's a good outfit. Yeah.
Yeah. So he was lead singer of that for, I don't know, three or 4 years. I guess around 3 years. Then started a band called the Johnson Brothers in 2010, and then went solo in 2013. But all the time leading up to that, he's writing songs for, big name country artists, right?
Yep. So who all's on that list? I know Kenny Chesney. I know George Strait. I know Carrie Underwood. Who else is on that list, to your knowledge?
I had a list, and I've got to find it again.
That's right.
Luke Bryan, Josh Turner.
Oh yeah, he wrote "Your Man." That was a good tune.
Yeah. Then he's been on albums with Adele and Kelly Clarkson, Brad Paisley. Co-written with Vince Gill, Peter Frampton, Sheryl Crow. So
Dolly Parton now.
Yeah. So he gets around. He gets around. And first solo album was Traveler.
It's a good record.
Yep.
Are you familiar much with the story behind all that?
A little bit, because we had some inside information on that making of that album. So if you want to talk about that, go ahead.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't want to share too much of the inside baseball, but the long story short is Chris's father had passed away, and they spent a couple of weeks driving around the West Coast, visiting national parks, and just the two of them in an open top Jeep, and kind of got a chance to say goodbye and say what they had to say to one another. And this album came out of that. They recorded it at Blackbird Studios in Nashville, which is a special studio to me. I know to you because of our friends there, but it's just incredible. The ballads on it, Fire Away and Whiskey and You, we both love, but the Traveler and then Sometimes I Cry are kind of the songs he did for his dad.
Yeah.
And as both of us have aging-ish fathers or grandfathers or whoever, it's a very special and emotionally charged record. So.
Yeah. It was the original recording of it is allegedly locked away in a safe somewhere that will never see the light of day. Chris Stapleton hated the way it sounded.
Yep.
And so they re-recorded the whole thing, and he didn't like the way it sounded in the studio. So they set up the entire recording, all the recording equipment in the parking lot of the studio. And what the final product is on Traveler, one of the greatest albums so far of of this century
Yes.
was recorded in a parking lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you've been over there in Berry Hill, in Nashville, the parking lot is maybe as big as any living room in the United States. It's
Yes.
not a large spot.
Yes.
It's basically a cul-de-sac driveway. There's not
Right.
much to it.
Right.
So the fact that you get a record like that,
Let's record album of the year in your driveway.
yeah. Good luck.
Yeah.
Just a side note, I know we've got other records to cover, but I had a chance to see Chris Stapleton play at Nissan Stadium over this past summer.
Yep.
With George Strait, and he played a song off this record, "The Devil Named Music."
Yep.
And oh my gosh, it was the best song of the night. We were there for 6.5 hours listening to different bands, and then I think George Strait played like 34 songs or something like that. And he's great, he's a legend. But when Chris and his wife came out and did "The Devil Named Music," game over. Everything else, like after that, was second place, if that. So,
yeah.
Great record.
Yeah, it's tough to beat. And obviously the hit, the biggest hit probably off of that was Tennessee Whiskey, which is not a Chris Stapleton song. It was written by Dean Dillon and Linda Hargrove and originally recorded by David Allen Coe. But Chris Stapleton owns it now.
Yeah. Well, we'll get into this later on too, but once Chris Stapleton has covered a song, 9 times out of 10, that's his song now.
Right.
You know, Freebird is a great tune, and we both love Leonard Skinner. But once Chris Stapleton put out his version, it's hard to argue that that's not a Chris Stapleton tune now.
Freebird is not a Chris Stapleton tune, but it was fun to hear him do that.
Absolutely.
In his concert. He did that with he opened well, he started playing Freebird, and that went into The Devil Named Music.
Yes.
If I remember correctly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
And Outlaw State of Mind.
Mm-hmm.
Does that close that album? Is that what?
No,
Sometimes I cry. Sometimes I cry.
Sometimes I cry. Outlaw State of Mind's penultimate, second to last. Yeah.
That's an amazing song.
Yeah, it is.
And if you watch the movie Hell or High Water, the closing credits are to that song, and that's why you stay and you watch the credits.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
If there was a song that fit a movie, that is a song that fit a movie.
Any other highlights on that one to you?
Is there a bad one? I mean, I just pulled
no
up
bad ones at all.
I pulled up the list, and Might As Well Get Stoned is hilariously fun.
The fun one. Yeah. Daddy Doesn't Pray Anymore makes me want to cry every time I hear it.
Yep. Nobody to Blame, Parachute. Man.
No skips, no misses, I think it sounds like.
No, not even close. I can't tell you what my favorite song is off this. Because Traveler and Fire Away are both incredible. Whiskey and You, Devil Named Music, Outlaw State of Mind are just, I don't know. They're just incredibly good songs.
Hard to argue with any of that track list. Yeah.
Now, okay, this is just 8 years ago. Okay. 8 years ago, Chris Stapleton is the CMA New Artist of the Year at the age of, I don't know,
36, 37?
Something like that. Yeah. So
late
he's the
30s.
new Artist of the Year. And he does a duet with Justin Timberlake. Okay. First, I'll be the first person to say, if there's an award show on TV, that's something to not watch.
Yes.
Okay. They're all horrible. But there are highlights in certain award shows that do demand your attention. And this is one of them. They did Tennessee Whiskey and they did "Can't Drink You Away," which is
Yeah.
the Justin Timberlake song. Man, it is so good.
That was great.
And Timberlake's voice going back and forth with Stapleton's was
That's some magic.
yeah. So look that up on YouTube. Just Stapleton Timberlake CMA, and you'll find it immediately. Very much worth your time. I watched it again this weekend, and man, that is some good stuff. But anything else on Traveler?
Go listen to it.
Yeah.
Probably listen to it again. Yeah.
Yeah.
It might be my favorite Stapleton release. We'll talk about some others that are in contention later, but as far as just a perfect record, hard to argue with that one.
Yeah. Then he did 2 volumes of From a Room. It released in 2017.
Yep.
Thoughts on the From a Room?
Yeah. So, couple things, it's actually, not to correct you, but it's From a Room as opposed to
From
the
a
D
room.
room in the studio.
Oh, thank you.
So they're in the A room at RCA there in Nashville. So legendary studio and all that kind of stuff. Volume 1, Broken Halos.
Yep.
It's a good tune. It's over covered. It's kind of like Tennessee Whiskey, where I'm kind of tired of it. If you spend an evening at any bar with a cover band, chances are you're going to hear it around these areas. But Up to No Good Living, Last Thing I Needed, First Thing This Morning, which that is a George Jones cover as well, I believe.
Yep.
And then I Was Wrong. Oh my gosh, that boy can sing. Volume 1, it's got some hits on it. I don't know if you want to talk about Volume 2 yet, but
second one to know, you didn't mention it. That might be my favorite on there. That it's either that or I Was Wrong, one of those two.
Yes.
And
good tune.
Yeah. And then Volume 2 came out in 2017 also. Volume 1 came out in May. Volume 2 came out in December.
Volume 2's got some great stuff on it. As far as radio-friendly love songs in country music, Millionaire might be up there in the top 5 or 6 for me. There's a lot of frankly just dumb bullshit on country radio. Country Girl Shake It For Me is not a love song. I'm sorry. Kick rocks on that. Millionaire is such a sweet song.
It is.
And it's, well done for his wife. I like Scarecrow in the Garden quite a bit. Have you seen what's the movie with Matthew McConaughey? The 2 boys and the dad is schizophrenic, but he thinks the devil's he thinks Jesus is trying to get them to kill all the sinners, and then you realize the dad's a serial killer.
Oh, I don't know that.
I forget what it's called. I'll look it up on a break and we'll talk about it. But Scarecrow in the Garden is very reminiscent of that. Just the kind of pagan Christianity that is involved sometimes in the South. A little bit of that. So that one's good. Trying to Untangle My Mind is great. And then Midnight Train to Memphis. Holy cow, that song goes hard.
Yeah, that's probably my favorite off this one.
I agree.
Yeah, it's terrific. But
again, well worth listening to, top to bottom though.
Yeah. And Millionaire was not written by Chris Stapleton.
Oh, who wrote it? That's news to me.
Somebody named Kevin Welch.
Kevin Welch. Okay. Yeah. Well, I have to go check out his credits after this on BMI.
Yeah, there you go.
Very cool.
Yeah, but again, just you put Volume 1, Volume 2 together, you got about a little over an hour of some fantastic music. That again, I don't know anybody that doesn't like Chris Stapleton.
Yeah, it's hard to argue with his level of talent.
I mean, if you're going to say, "Oh, I don't like him," then you've just got a blind bias against the genre. Okay, because there's enough blues and enough rock going on in his brand of country music that it can appeal to you, and the talent in his vocals and his talent as a songwriter and as a guitarist, um, you've just got a bias that you won't let go of if you say you don't want Chris Stapleton.
Absolutely. I think we should also mention, while we're talking about the From A Room things, is the work of the great Dave Cobb. I know
Yes.
we've talked about Dave Cobb on the show plenty of times, but he's a Nashville producer. Worked with Stapleton, obviously. He did the last 2 Brandy Carlisle records.
Yep.
He did the final John Prine record. He's done the last 3 Jason Isbell records, the last 2 Sturgill Simpson records, The Highwaymen, and then Rival Sons, a band I know both of us love.
Yep.
Yeah, the guy is incredible.
Yep.
And our friend Lorenzo is always raving about his mic choices and how he does the drums and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
There's magic in that guy's hands. Obviously he's a wizard technically, but that partnership of somebody that's a really dedicated songwriter and singer like Stapleton or Isbell or Brandy Carlisle with Dave Cobb, that's magic. And that formula has proven successful time and time again.
He's batting 1,000. So I don't know of anything that he's really missed on, and I'm just scrolling through a bunch of his stuff right now, and it goes on for a while.
Indeed.
Chris Cornell. Yeah, I forgot about that.
Oh, I didn't know that. What did he do for Chris Cornell?
Carry On.
Really?
From 2007. How about that?
Okay. Very cool.
Yep.
Awesome.
The guy's got it going. So 2020 Stapleton release Starting Over. That's again a terrific. There's nothing wrong with any of these. Wow. You Should Probably Leave. Devil Made Me Think Twice. I like that one.
Joy of My Life.
Joy of My Life.
Another great love song.
It's a John Fogerty song.
Indeed.
Yep.
Okay. Can we talk about Cold for a second?
Okay.
That might be the best drum sound I've ever heard on a country music record in my life.
Oh, wow.
It just killed the kick and snare. And he's got that light little piano thing to start the intro, but when the drums come in, holy crap, man. They nailed that. Right. Cold is good. And that's another one where Stapleton just wails vocally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have not taken note of the drums on that, but I'll make sure that I do. I'll listen to that. Probably tonight. Arkansas is a good song. Written with Mike Campbell.
Yes.
Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers fame.
Indeed. I actually got to see them do that together at last year's Bourbon and Beyond. So not 2023, but 2022. Mike Campbell was out there, and he came out with Margot Price, and then the Dirty Knobs had a set, and Stapleton was the end of the night, and they brought Mike Campbell out. They did Arkansas, and then they did a Heartbreakers tune as well. I forget what it was off the top of my head right now, but yeah, that was cool.
Yeah. When I saw Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers back in, I guess it was 2017. It was the year he passed, and Cindy got me tickets, and she was trying to get tickets to go see him at Wrigley Field because Chris Stapleton was opening.
Oh wow!
and couldn't get the tickets, so we were in. Got to see him in Nashville, so that was good too. But that would have been pretty cool. So yeah. Okay, before we start talking about the new album, let's talk about Chris Stapleton's partnership with E.H. Taylor.
Yeah.
So
I might be drinking some of that.
There you go.
Standing.
Yeah.
So The one I picked up was from Cox Evergreen here in
Yep.
Louisville, Kentucky. It's a single barrel pick that they have, not affiliated with Chris Stapleton, but he's got a really cool project that he does for charity every year for the folks out in Eastern Kentucky. If you're not familiar with that, there's been massive flooding, a lot of tornado damage and things of that nature. And he does a signed single barrel, a couple of them, I believe, each year to help
Mhm.
the folks out in Eastern Kentucky for disaster relief. So it's a really unique project. You know, they've got a signature line of jackets and things that they've done with Buffalo Trace, and I think Thursday Boot Company. That's a
Mhm.
collaboration. I will acknowledge that Chris himself is sober as of about a couple of years ago, so
Mhm.
we don't want to affiliate him with anything that he's moved beyond for his personal journey. But
Right.
really unique to see a guy, you know, famous in Tennessee from Kentucky, partner with an industry that's important to this state to help people from the state.
Yeah.
And that's a meaningful thing. I think we can acknowledge.
Yeah.
So,
I agree, and I think they build this charity event around Bottled and Bond Day. So March 3rd, is that right? You have my dates right?
yes.
Yeah, March 3rd, and it's a big auction, online auction thing, so you can bid for these E.H. Taylor bottles that Stapleton signs, and raises money for people that have suffered some tragedy. So that's kind of a cool thing. And thoughts on E.H. Taylor?
Ooh. Well, as a whole, kind of seems like the guy was a bit of a scumbag,
Yeah,
but cool to see his legacy preserved in these in these bottles.
yeah.
The one I'm drinking in particular, I will
Mhm.
say, um, I think I sent this to a text with you and a couple of buddies, but
Mhm.
it tastes exactly like a watermelon Jolly Rancher. It's got the sweet, it's got the tart, it's got a little bit of the confectionery sugar thing.
Yep.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's dangerous for me to have this in my house. I'll put it that way.
Yeah. I don't. I don't think that I've ever had an E.H. Taylor where I thought this is a watermelon Jolly Rancher. So I hope to be able to try a bit of that.
Oh,
Uh,
I've got sample bottles already put aside for you and Krebs.
oh, wonderful! Thank you. But I do think that there is some lighter fruit candy notes, like an
Mhm.
apricot candy or a peach candy, that I do get on a lot of E.H. Taylor stuff.
Mhm.
But watermelon would be different. So
Yeah,
look forward to
and
trying that.
and you know, the Wonka candy note is something I get consistently on Buffalo Trace products.
Hmm.
This one in particular just had a little bit more of that sweet side of things rather than the grapey or the strawberry kind of, you know, the Fun Dip or the Nerds, that
Yep.
kind of thing. It was definitely more of a watermelon thing. So,
Yeah.
yeah. What about you? Anything I missed out on sharing there?
No, I think you nailed it. And I think you kind of nailed the E.H. Taylor stuff. To me, it's the best thing that Buffalo Trace does.
Agreed.
And I don't know why. Don't know the. I mean, I think there's a lot of legend around. You know, all Blanton's comes from warehouse age. I don't believe that.
Sure.
It may have rolled through warehouse age at some point, but it didn't age there the whole time. I just don't think that it's mathematically possible for that to be the case.
Hmm.
Um, but you know what they've got with the H Taylor is usually as consistently good
Yep.
as anything that they put out.
Hmm. And you know, if you can pick up a bottle within $15-20 of MSRP, it's probably worth it.
Yeah, I would agree.
There are plenty of places in town that will do a 300% markup on it. I
Yep.
would discourage any of our friends and listeners from spending that kind of money for the product, but it is very good.
Yeah.
You know, especially single barrel, you know, in the 80 to 100 range. That's pretty good price for that these days. And it's out there. You got to be
Yep.
patient. You got to build
Yep.
relationships with the right folks.
Yeah. And if you find it, and like Drew said, if it's at or near retail price, grab it. you'll be glad that you did. So most recently, I think came out a couple weeks ago, as we're recording this, is Stapleton's newest album called Higher.
Mm-hmm.
And you mentioned this a couple weeks ago when we were recording. There you go.
Yep. Yeah.
Not,
No complaints here.
Yep.
I think it might be my favorite thing since Traveler, as far as just the total track list being
oh, wow.
as close to perfect as you can get. But Loving You on My Mind is incredible. The Bottom, I know White Horse was a hit when he first released that as a single. The Weight of Your World, I think, might be my favorite track on the record.
Yeah, I think I would agree with that. I think that's probably my favorite. I do like South Dakota a lot.
Yeah.
Does he tend to write a lot about geographic locations?
It seems that way. He has at least one a tune about a state, just about everywhere.
South Dakota and Arkansas. So,
yeah.
Anyway, but yeah, I think that it's a solid album. And I don't know if it was 3 years in the making simply because of touring commitments, or just wanting to make sure that there's no drop off in quality in terms of what he's putting out. I think that
COVID, I'm sure, has to play a factor in all that.
Yeah, I think that he takes it pretty seriously, it seems. But yeah, if you've not listened to this album yet, I would definitely recommend it. It seems to be more of a mellow vibe to it. Doesn't have a whole lot of those scorching high points that some of his other albums do. But everything about it is very good. Songwriting's good. His vocals are just spectacular. Yeah, so can't recommend it enough.
If you listen to the track record, there's a few deviations there. Excuse me, track listing.
Yeah.
Kind of listen to it sequentially. It seems to me to be kind of an extended love letter to his wife. And thematically, if you follow them on social media and stuff, there's little moments that you can pick up on. Hey, this might have been written around this time of this post or this thing or that thing.
Yeah.
It seems like a long form love letter for his wife. So it's cool to see somebody that's been, with their partner, 20 something years and 5 kids later, still be in love and still writing songs like that. That's neat.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that's very cool. And the fact that he could reach a level of success, not just any level of success, but the height of heights of success in his field, relatively later in life than what you see with a lot of folks, and maintain his family. That says a lot.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, what about I know we're winding down here, but what about his collaboration efforts? You had mentioned Justin Timberlake. He just released a duet with Dolly Parton.
Yeah.
He's got a song with Joy Oladikin from earlier this year, Sweet Symphony. That's incredible. The man's got a voice that's meant to blend with other people.
Well, yeah. I think that if you have the opportunity to get him on an album or a song with you, you jump at that opportunity. I know he did a song with Tom Morello, guitarist for Rage Against the Machine, which was an interesting album in and of itself, because he basically would recruit people to come in and be vocalists, or maybe even collaborate in the songwriting, and he would play the guitar part and the other person would sing, and there's some interesting stuff in there. But I don't know. He worked with Taylor Swift, right? What was that Metallica album, where everybody did a cover of Metallica songs? I think he did Nothing Else Matters.
Yes. The one that he did with Zach Brown Band. Heavy as the Head.
Yeah.
Have you heard that one?
Yes.
That one's good.
Yeah. Yeah. Chris Stapleton and Zach Brown band. You don't have to ask me twice.
Sold pretty easily.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think he truly is kind of a once in a generation special artist where the person and the writing and the voice and the playing and the group of folks he has around him
Right.
all line up in this perfect way. And I hesitate to use the word authentic, but
Right.
what I mean is what he says matches what he does. And kind of how he approaches this process. He's got the right producer, the right partner, and he's just really killing it. And the talent matches all that. So he's just special. He just doesn't miss. Yeah.
Yeah. Now I know that Cindy and I went and saw him live last year up in Columbus, and it was an arena show. And I think you saw him around that same time. Or it was on the same tour, I think. But
saw him September of 22 and July of 23.
Okay, yeah, this was I guess April or May of 22. And there was a section of his set where it was just him playing solo. And he did What Are You Listening To, Traveler, and Whiskey and You. And you don't often think of the solo sets where it's just a guy with his acoustic guitar sitting on a stool playing songs as being the emotional highlight of a show, especially when it's stuck in the middle of the set list. But it was, to me, it was definitely the case on this performance. There was just something about the energy in that arena that it just lifted. And I think that Chris Stapleton, if he could, he'd love to just go around playing bars and small venues, and because he really seemed to get a real buzz out of doing that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Every time I've seen him, he's taken a moment to do that.
Yeah.
And you said the words emotional highlight. I think that fits for those times when it's just him and a guitar, whether it's electric, acoustic, whatever, seems to be where he comes the most alive.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool.
I do remember we were sitting next to some ladies, and it had to be like a girls' night thing, and they're sitting right in front of us. And every song he'd start it, and one of them would say, "Oh, this is," and it was a completely wrong song practically every time. Have you ever heard this man play before?
Probably not.
Probably not. But
good stuff.
Yeah. Highly recommend any of his albums. Recommend going to see him live as well. You will really appreciate it. And just he's an icon.
Absolutely. Yeah, if you're the whiskey drinking type, grab some Tennessee whiskey or some E.H. Taylor, throw it on your turntable or your Bluetooth speaker. You're not going to be mad that you spent an evening doing that. I guarantee it.
Yep. And you'll just think, "Oh, I like that song. Oh, I like that song. I like that song." Just the way it goes. So, any other thoughts on Tennessee whiskey or Chris Stapleton?
I think we summed up our thoughts on Tennessee whiskey pretty all right. We won't keep kicking a dead horse, but just mad respect to a guy that writes 90-something% of all his own songs. Has stayed a good human, has given back to his community, and has used his talent to uplift other up-and-coming artists. Just nothing but respect for the guy, both as a human being and as a creator of good music.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, we could keep going on about talking about his band and talking about doing a deeper dive into stuff, but you can check all that stuff out yourself. Everything about his music and the musicians that he has on it and the people that he surrounds himself with play towards just an excellent body of work.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right. Well, Drew, what do we got coming up next time?
Yeah, we're going to be doing a fun one, talking about one-hit wonders. And what we are talking about specifically is single barrels.
Yeah.
If you're familiar with the industry, they are here and then they're gone. So that'll be a fun discussion between Kevin and I. And then we're going to be talking about one-hit wonders in music as well. We were comparing lists earlier in the week, and I think you will definitely enjoy the conversation on that as well. So tune in next time for the one-hit wonder show.
Yeah. Stapleton is not. He will not be talked about on that show. No. Where can folks find you on social media, Drew?
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram at drew.crawley63. Sorry for the complicated handle. And then at drewcrawleymusic.com. I have to update that one desperately, but got a couple of dates coming through September, or excuse me, through December and January coming out. And then we are very close to being able to announce release date for this next record. So check it out. Palomino is out on all platforms wherever you listen to music. I'm very proud of that one, and I would be honored if you take a moment to listen to it. And I hope that you guys will be as excited as I am for the rest of this record to make its way into the world.
Yep. Waiting. I think that this baby's late, but
Yeah,
we'll enjoy it when it arrives.
Ain't gonna do it until it's right.
Yeah, well, that's the way to do it. Our show, you can watch us on YouTube. If you're over there, hit the subscribe button. We would appreciate it. That would be awesome. You can listen to the show on your favorite podcast platform, as long as it's Apple, Spotify, or Google. We have a Facebook page where we release all of our shows. We have a Facebook group where we talk about the things that we're listening to and the things that we may be drinking with it while we're listening to it. Could be some Chris Stapleton and Tennessee whiskey, as Drew alluded to, or it could be Chris Stapleton and something else. So you make your own choices. But at any rate, on behalf of Drew and myself and our non-guest Chris Stapleton, till next time, cheers, love, and free bird.
Cheers.
Night, folks.
You know.